One thing is you're inevitably going to build a product, or anything you do will be a direct result of whatever you have indulged in. So if you listen to a lot of Metallica all your life, when you pick up a guitar, chances are it's gonna sound a lot like Metallica. It's just a black and white example. Um, but at the same time, if you're talking about internal values, um, there you have a choice all of a sudden. I think your influences are going to be more on a subconscious level, where your choice of storytelling, your choice of your direct projection of your art is more on a conscious level. Because here you can decide, what am I going to tell you a story about, right? And I've tried both, and that's why I feel that way. Fuel for the Revolution, our first album, were great songs. I I will stand by them. I really like the songs. I like the product. I like the album. But at no point did I ever sit down and think, I'm going to try and tell this story. See what I mean? Did make a conscious decision to actually pull out some of my specific experiences and then translate that into a product. Whatever did come out came out on a subconscious level.
Yeah, you let it come together by itself.
By itself.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, it might be a self-defeating process to try to really be a control freak and try to piece it together exactly the way that you saw it.
Although that's exactly what I did in Nowhereland.
Oh yeah?
The next one, I actually sat down and I said, all right, we have this this concept where each song on the album will then represent a chapter in the book Nowhereland, which will come out hopefully at some point soon when I finish it. We're playing the concert, as you know. You've been playing bass for us.
Yeah.
Which is
play
really
bass.
which is really awesome. But we do it live, where we have shorter versions of the chapters, and then we tell the chapter, and then we play the song, and we have the drawings and the illustrations from the book, which we then have on a projector. So, but the whole idea with the book was to sit down and say, okay, I have this story I want to tell, and this story is a pirate story, right? Now, obviously, I don't have experience as a pirate. I've never met a pirate. It's a different era. These are things that I have no knowledge about, or no emotional association to, right? But this is the story I wanted to tell. So, what do? I took my own experiences, and I said, all right, so I need a protagonist. What does he represent? Well, he has certain values. I took that out of my own life experiences, right? I had a stepfather who used to beat the crap out of me when I was a kid. All right, well, that'll be the big bad guy. And he's represented indirectly in the story. All right, so I've been to Iraq. Okay, so we have a song called Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia being the land between two rivers, which is where Iraq is, and that is basically where that story takes place. Everything is reflected directly or indirectly through my own life experiences.
Does the first album is the first album as personal
No.
as Nowhereland?
Not even close.
Yes, because it seems to me like Nowhereland is very, very inspired by your life experience and what we were talking about. And the more I learn about you, and the more I learn about the songs and the lyrics and so on, the more I can connect the dots.
Yeah. And that's exactly the point. And that's what I mean with integrity.
And the two albums are so different.
Yeah. And
it's funny because I feel like the first album is more diverse in terms of style and stylistic range.
Yeah.
Whereas the second album is more unified stylistically.
Yeah.
But this, it's more concentrated in terms of storytelling as well.
Exactly. And this was an exercise.
It's one big song.
Yeah, exactly. And it was an exercise in that as well. And it was an exercise in what integrity meant to me And the hope was that when I was able to tell a story through my own life experiences, but not spell it out specifically, that people would be able to relate to it and understand the emotion and the intent behind the story and the songs.
Do you feel like... No,
No, I was
finish.
just going to say without specifically knowing what I'm trying to tell them. So being able to draw your own experiences into that.
Do you feel like the fact that you've recorded the first album with a producer in a big studio, and that you recorded the second album by yourself in a home studio, did that have any influence or impact on the creative process and the fact that they are so different?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll say the freedom of being in your own studio and having the time to work out. I'm a bit of a hermit when I work. When I start a project, I'm stubborn as hell. I have no self-control, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. And in this case, with Nowhereland, I locked myself into the practice room and turned on the blue lights, and I had the sound of waves and ships and pirate ships and stuff in the background all the time for weeks and weeks on end.
So you went from, no pun intended, total immersion.
You could say that. It was a combination of many things. One thing was that I really wanted to throw myself into this universe, and I was living in this universe for all intents and purposes, with the sounds and the lighting, and I was spending every moment I could in the practice room trying to imagine this universe, at the same time trying to project my own experiences into that, for whatever that meant. But another aspect of it was that I had just gone through hell by losing my voice. I got an infection. I think nobody really knows, but I went through a process where I got vocal cord paralysis. So I actually lost the use of my left vocal cord. I think it was functioning at like 20%, 20%, which meant that I couldn't sing in practice. That meant that I couldn't sing for more than 15 minutes maybe per day. So a lot of the time I spent in there was basically in imagining the story and trying to figure out where to go with it, and then using the precious 10 or 15 minutes I had to sing that line or that put that point into the song.
Yeah, that must have been a very, very different thing.
A completely different process.
It's really interesting how all these contingencies just come to shape.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
sure I
nothing
would
is
have been
built in
able
a
to.
vacuum. Yeah.
I don't think I could have been. I would have been able to make a product like Nowhereland if I could just sing the whole damn thing in one go. Because every sentence every phrase on that album has maximum meaning and impact, because I had to, because I had no choice. That I spent days and days thinking of just that one line that I was going to deliver and what that meant and what does that reflect and how does that connect to the story, but how does it not really spell it out anyway. And this is why a song like The Island, for example, that I've been told again and again that people relate to it as if it was, some people think it's a love song. Some people think it's a breakup song. And when they hear it that way, they hear it exactly like that. And then when I tell the story of Nowhereland, whenever we play gigs, they're like, oh, that's what it. So it can mean so many.
For me, it evokes the Treasure Island.
There you go. See, it
and also it sounds. That's how it sounds to me. It sounds like I'm in a bark. Can you say that? Is that a word in English? A
like
tiny boat. Yeah,
boat,
but a tiny one,
yeah.
the one that you used to leave the mother boat, the fleet, to go on the island and actually inspect it. And
it would be called in this case, it would be a
small
longboat. A longboat is what they
longboat. Yeah, a small embarkation or. Yeah, that's how it feels, because there is this. And I play the bass line and I really like it, and it sounds almost tropical to me.
Yeah, and that was the idea, and everything put in there was consciously put in there. Nothing on that album is by chance, and that is a whole different process than the first album. And now with the third album, I'm
The
kind of
Renaissance series.
the
Wow.
Renaissance series, yeah, which is basically a similar project where we're kind of trying to recreate that level of integrity in a way by putting it into a story, which is going to be a movie, a stop motion movie. And again, each song represents, not even represents, each song is a chapter. That's the difference. Where in Nowhere Land, each song represents a chapter. Here, it is almost like a silent movie, and each song is just, we have 5 songs on it. So it's intended as a series of 5 stories, which then make one long story.
But are the lyrics connected the way they are on Nowhere Land?
Yes and no. But a lot of these songs are older songs. Some are not, and the ones we went in and didn't. Basically, we sat down and analyzed. Okay, what does this song mean? What is that? Because a lot of what happens when I write stuff.
So it's more of a retro engineering process of drawing a common thread.
Yes, and then putting the parts together, and whatever doesn't have the mortar between the bricks, we then created the mortar. Meaning that we wrote new songs and reformed songs and rewrote songs in order to make the storyline fit. Because
So it sounds like a composite approach to me.
it is, but a lot of the stuff that was written already already had a common thread in regards of that what I wrote had a purpose on a subconscious level. So basically, it was digging out what was that subconscious. So where Fuel for the Revolution was just a collection of songs, which were written subconsciously, but then not put together.
They were written individually without a sight of the greater whole, is what you mean.
Exactly. And they were put together because they just sounded good together and we made a good product and this and that. But there was no real, like, okay, that's what this means and that's what that means. And then Nowhere Land came along, and then we flipped that coin, and we consciously, before the songs we created, said, all right, let's put this thing together. Let's see what we're going to do. And we told a story, and everything was put together. Now, it's a new process. Again, it's always about rediscovering your process and trying to figure out new ways to do things. We took the subconsciously written songs and try to figure out, almost like a psychoanalysis of the songs, figure out, okay, what does this mean? And what does it represent? And how does it fit in the story? And what's missing? And then put the thing together.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's really exciting because it's like self-discovery. It's like, that's what that meant, right? And you're trying to, you're really trying to dig into what was it I was trying to say. And often we don't know that. It's like your subconscious is trying to tell you something, and then you're finally putting it into a concrete product.
Yeah.
Which we hope to project through the film. I think it's really strong. I think it's going to be one of the strongest products so far.
I mean, my favorite album so far of the two is Nowhere Land, but it maybe has to do with the way I consume music, because I'm a musician myself, and I'm a bit nerdy about it, and I just love this process of finding evidence and be like, oh, this means that, and that song is connected to that song, and etc.
Yeah.
And also you have leitmotifs that are, it's definitely not obvious, but if you listen to it a bunch of times, you can hear them, that come back from song to song, etc.
Yeah.
So but maybe, I don't know if it's possible. I mean, it's definitely possible to write a compelling piece of art and of music by writing on a song per song basis, but still, and that's just a personal opinion, there is something that is to be gained from trying to build something that makes sense on a greater scale.
I think it all comes down to your definition of what music represents for you, or what art represents for you in general. And I think that definition is different from creator to creator.
And depends also when you live, because the fact that a song should be between 3 and 5 minutes on the radio is completely absurd.
The concept of an album is absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constraint. It's not absurd. It comes from a very material reality of like the number of like.
It's absurd in a modern context because it's not necessary. But just because it's absurd doesn't make it irrelevant.